Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. As we walked into the living room, I saw a man and a woman sitting on the couch. The woman smiled and looked pretty nice. I would say she was about 30 years old. There was no smile on the older man's face. He had a clipboard in his hand and looked very polite. The woman asked, "Katie?" with a smile. I said in a low voice, "That's me." "Calm down, sweetheart, don't worry. We're here to help you." I sat down across from them and waited. The man had a frown on his face. I believed he did not like me very much. He looked at his clipboard and then at me over and over again. The woman looked up and asked the family, "Is it okay if we talk to Katie by herself for a while?" "Of course," Mrs. Bright said, and then they all left me with the two council members. "Hi, Katie. My name is Miss Smith, and this is Mr. Jackson. We want to help you as much as we can. I know a little about your case, but Mr. Jackson hasn't had time to read all of your papers yet. Could you tell us a little about what happened to you?" Mr. Jackson cut Miss Smith off. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand this." I thought we were going to see David Peters. Miss Smith was angry and said, "Yes, John, this is David Peters. But as you can see, she'd rather be Katie." "But he's a boy," he said. "What is he wearing?" "Listen, Philip, I know you were thrown into this quickly and don't know much about it. Could you please wait until Katie speaks before you jump in?" My face turned very red. They talked about me like I wasn't there. The man coughed and looked annoyed that Miss Jones was talking to him that way. He then told me, "Well, that is, Katie, what did you do after your parents died?" It was so hard for me to start telling them what happened. It took me a long time to finish telling my story because I started to cry as I talked about what happened after my parents died. Miss Smith looked at me with tears in her eyes, so she must have known what I was going through. But Mr. Jackson made my heart skip a beat. He didn't seem upset. He looked at me like I was something he had picked up from his shoe. "But, why do you like to dress like a girl?" he asked with a cough. "I don't," I said. "What do you mean?" "I'm not dressed like a girl. I'm a girl." "No, you're not a girl, you're a boy. You look and act like a boy because you were born that way. I might have boy parts, but I'm a girl inside. You'll grow out of it. Being this way now isn't normal." "No, I won't. I'm a girl, don't you get it?" Then I sped out of the room, past the shocked Brights who were waiting outside, smashed open the kitchen door, and ran outside. I knew my bike was by the garage around the corner, so I ran to it, jumped on it, and pedaled as fast as I could down the drive. I couldn't see very well because it was dark, but the moon was out in the cool night sky. It was hard for me to think straight because I was hurt, angry, confused, scared, and crying so hard. I shook on my bike as my feelings took over. It wasn't fair, I thought. Just when I thought things were going to get better, something else comes along and knocks me back down. I need to get away quickly before they catch me and lock me up. Jackson, the awful person. I didn't know who I was, where I was going, or what to do, so I rode off into the night. After that awful meeting with Jackson, I was riding my bike in the early evening darkness that was getting darker by the second. I could hardly see where I was going because I was crying so much. I slowed down when I ran out of breath. In other words, the sweat on my skin started to cool me down. I was pretty cold because I was only wearing a thin dress. I was getting tired faster. I was done riding after only 15 minutes. I stopped stumbling and gasping for air because I was losing my balance. I got off my bike, leaned against a tree, and closed my eyes. I was going to pass out and felt really sick. After sitting there for a while, I finally felt better and could go on. I had to leave. I did not want to be caught. It was kind of like, hello. I went on, and I have to say I was getting a little scared. It was getting dark, and I was outside by myself. It was getting dark out, so it was hard for me to see where I was going. Then I looked ahead and saw a place I knew. It's where my parents died, where everything went wrong in the first place. I stopped by the tree where our car had hit it. The accident scars were still there. I sat down again and put my bike up against the tree. The more I thought about it, the more tired I felt. When I closed my eyes, I could feel myself slipping away. I slowly woke up and had no idea where I was. Voices were far away, but as I slowly came to the surface, I could make them out better. When I opened my gum-filled eyes, I saw that I was lying in a bed. I didn't know where I was or what was going on. Then I saw a face come into view, and it was Nicola. "Hey, you sleepyhead! You're awake now! What am I doing? At home, you jerk!" When I turned around, I saw that I was back in the bedroom I had used before. The door opened just then, and Mrs. Bright came in. "Nicola, get out of here before I make you do both the dishes and the drying. It's not fair. I always have to do the hard work. Leave now. Okay, see you soon." She then ran out of the room. "Close the door!" Mrs. Bright sat down on the bed. "Katie, how are you? A little worn out and weak. What took place? Do you not remember?" Then it all came back to me. How that awful person, Mr. Jackson, made me feel bad and made me run away. That made me cry. I didn't want to think about it, but I was back in the soup. Mrs. Bright got close to me and kissed me. Don't worry, honey. I forgot to ask where Honey is. Knowing her, she went outside to look for mice. She slept on your bed all night and just got up 30 minutes ago. I sniffed and asked, "How did you find me?" "I guess you could say we were a little worried. We didn't know what happened until you were a long way from the house. We all got in our cars and looked for you. Robin and Nicola were the ones who found you, squished under that old tree and not looking good. You were quickly brought back here, and Robin took a good look at you. As long as you got some rest, he said you were fine. Take care of yourself because you have diabetes. You can't just run off like that. It might have been risky. I'm truly sorry. Robin and I are to blame. We wouldn't have let that stupid guy into the house or let him see you without us being there if we knew what he was going to say. Because deep down, you really think you're a girl, and jerks like Jackson try to hurt you because they don't get it. Don't stress out about this right now. What am I going to do? Mr. Jackson will want to find a home for me. He won't, though. Those in charge of social services fired him. They told him that his kind of abuse and hatred has no place in the department because he has been in trouble before. But what about you? I felt scared as I looked at her. What was going to take place? You don't know this, but Nicola came to us when she was 2 years old. We're not her real parents. Her mother died not long after she was born. That's why Robin and I have been foster parents for many years. We can't have children of our own. In fact, over the last 15 years, we've taken in about 40 kids as friends. We chose to ask if we could adopt Nicola because she was a sweet kid. She became our daughter after a long process and a lot of papers. I was shocked by this information. I think that because I was so young, I was too focused on myself and thought that only I was having problems. I found out that Nicola had also been having trouble. The smile on Mrs. Bright's face caught my eye. She was smart. It's likely she knew what I was thinking. "Katie, you might be thinking, what's all this about?" Someone knocked on the door. "Come in," Mrs. Bright said. It was Mr. Bright. "Hello, Katie. How are you?" "Okay, thanks, but I'm a little tired. That was bound to happen. Stop running away now. I'm sorry." "Okay," he asked Mrs. Bright. "Have you told her?" "Not yet, but I've talked to her about Nicola." "Okay," Mrs. Bright went on. "Katie, we talked to social services and all agreed that you should stay with us as a foster kid because you have had a lot of problems and we don't want you to have to deal with them again, if you choose to." I looked at both of them. They were really nice to me. Could I please stay? Yes, of course. After that, they came over and gave me a big hug. Nicola then jumped on the bed and made a lot of noise. I was sure she had been listening through the opening. "Be quiet, Nicola," Mrs. Bright told her with a smile. "She's still weak, and if you don't stop, you'll set her back 6 months." When it was quiet again, Mrs. Bright told me what was going to happen one more time. "We need to fix a few things. For starters, you already know that you are an orphan in the eyes of the law, and we need to talk to your parents' lawyer about what will happen to your house and everything else they own. Second, you need to get into a school. But first, we have planned a meeting with someone that will help you with your gender to completely change for the better. We need to learn more about how you feel before we decide what to do." Because of how important this is, I've called in some favors and set up an appointment for you to see Philippa Newman. She is a psychiatrist who has experience and will be here in about 2 hours. I'm friends with her, and we're both on a few groups together. Her daughter is in the same class as Nicola, and I'm sure you'll like her too. Now go to sleep, and I'll wake you up in about an hour. After that, you can get ready to see her." After a quick kiss, Mrs. Bright pulled back the curtains, and I fell asleep without having any dreams. I was very tired from everything that had happened. I woke up to a soft touch on the face after what seemed like seconds. It was Mrs. Bright once more. "Good morning, Sleepy. How are you? How did this naughty cat get on your bed?" When I looked at the floor below the bed, I saw Honey curled up and sound asleep. She made a soft, purring sound. That's something I don't understand. She must be able to walk through walls, I thought as I rubbed my eyes awake. "Okay, Katie, let's get you dressed." I jumped out of bed and said, "Okay." For some reason, the nap made me feel a lot better. I quickly put on a white t-shirt, capri pants, and pink fluffy slippers. I drank milk with my family in the kitchen and started to feel nervous again, just like the last time. I thought of someone like Jackson, and I have to say I wasn't excited about the meeting that was coming up. Mrs. Bright must have seen how scared I looked and told me not to worry because Philippa is a nice girl, and I will be with you when you meet her. Not long after that, Nicola and I were watching cartoons in the living room. The doorbell soon rang, and Mrs. Bright came in with a woman who looked about the same age as her, but taller, had blue eyes, blonde hair, and a nice smile. "Katie, this is Philippa, the woman I told you about." Hi, Katie. How are you today?" Philippa sat down across from me, and Mrs. Bright held my hand as she sat down next to me. It helped me feel a little better. "Let's learn a little about you, Katie. Tell me your tale." "All of it?" "Yes, from the start. Do you remember the first time you felt like a girl? Also, list all the troubles you've had since then." I paused for a moment and then spoke. "I think I was 8 years old the first time I tried on my mom's dress. I talked for a long time. I felt better after doing it. As a way to let go, I guess. I told her about the clothes my friend Sarah gave me, the accident, and why I chose to live by myself as the girl I'd always thought I was. To hide the fact that I didn't have parents to care for me, I had to hide and lie. How I finally moved in with the Brights, and how I met Nicola at the shopping center. When I was done, my throat hurt from talking so much that Mrs. Bright got us all something to drink. Philippa asked me a few more things. "Katie, you told me the truth, but how do you really feel? You might be a boy who likes the way girls' clothes feel or plays dress-up. Or are you afraid of being a boy because you think you should be big, tough, and rough? Or are you a girl in a boy's body? I'm a girl. I've known it since I was a child. I looked at myself a lot when I was little. I didn't understand why they made me dress like a boy and expect me to act like a boy. Even if I had told them, I wasn't sure they would have understood because they loved me. I'm sure that if they knew what you were going through, they would have done everything they could to help you. I guess so, but now I'll never know." Mrs. Bright came in with the drinks just then. She put it down on the couch table and said, "Here you go." Philippa gave me some sheets with questions on them when we were done. She told me to go to my room and carefully and honestly fill them out, and she would see me when I was done. It was time to study. I went to my room, sat down at the desk, and took out a pen. They were pretty funny. Most of the questions were yes or no, like what color I liked, what style I liked, and what games I liked to play. Like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It took about 20 minutes to finish with about 60 questions. I took the sheets downstairs and gave Philippa the answers. "Thanks, sweetheart. I'll check your answers in peace now." Nicola did sneak in when it was safe to do so. "Is everything okay?" "I guess so. What took place?" I then told her about my conversation with Philippa and the test I had to take. Nicola said, "That's weird." Philippa and Mrs. Bright walked into the room at that very moment. "Nicola, are you done with your homework?" Go. The women sat down after Nicola moved. "That's it, Katie," Philippa said. "I scored your test, and the results show that you have all the signs of being a girl." Since you've told me other things that make me think you are a girl, I think the authorities should treat you like one until we find out otherwise. You need to know that other people feel the same way you do. There are a lot of kids who hide their gender issues, and it can get really bad sometimes. You are lucky. I want you to go to a clinic so that they can check you out completely. We can get you hormones to get you really started. As it is, you learned a lot today. I will see you next week, and then we can get things going for you. After that, she said goodbye and walked away. Mrs. Bright came back in and sat down next to me. How do you feel about it, Katie? Thanks, that's a lot better. I'm getting such nice treatment from everyone. After everything you've been through, you deserve it. I let out a yawn. Young lady, I think you should go to bed and take another nap. You should go now. I'm going to go upstairs right now to tuck you in. I kept yawning as I went upstairs. After getting better, I'll be glad not having to sleep every 5 minutes. Getting ready for bed was awful for me. I put on my nightgown and went to sleep. Honey, the lazy cat, hadn't moved in hours. She only opened one eye to look at me, purred a little louder, and then went back to sleep. As promised, Mrs. Bright came in to tuck me in. Good night, sweetheart. Do you know, Mrs. Bright? Where am I going to school? Well, I was going to tell you tomorrow, but it looks like we might be able to get you into Nicola's school early today. The headmistress feels sorry for you. She is sure that you would fit in very well at school as long as you take some safety measures. But you need to see her first so she can decide if you're a good fit. We can start working on that tomorrow. I yawned and said, That's nice. You should now go to sleep. She kissed me on the head and left. Wait, Mrs. Bright, what's that? She got back and sat on the bed. What's wrong, sweetheart? What wrong, dear? Nothing. Only, what? So would it make you mad if I called you Mommy? I loved my mom and dad so much and will never forget them. I'm sure they wouldn't mind, and if you can't take me in forever, I'll understand, and Nicola won't be mad. Katie, don't be silly. You can call me Mommy if you want to. What about Robin? Will you call him Daddy or Mr. Bright? Dad, of course, that's fine. It seems likely that Nicola will soon have a new sister named Katie if everything goes well and you like us as much as we like you. After giving me another kiss, my new mom left and shut the door quietly. It took me a little while to fall asleep. There were lots of good times with my mom and dad that came back to mind, and that made me feel good because I knew they would like the Brights. I would love and never forget them, but I had to start over with my life. The ride through that life would be interesting and possibly bumpy. I would have to figure out how to deal with physically changing from a boy to a girl, how to get along at my new school, and be a girl. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.